I want you to think about your most embarrassing moment. Will you do that for me? Like, really, think back to that most embarrassing moment and then also think not only about what happened, but what did it feel like? What did you experience in that moment? Now, whatever you experienced, we call that tension feedback. When something happens that is out of the norm, that's out of what we expected to happen, we can also say when it's out of our comfort zone, the body responds in a very specific way with a message to you: get back to what's normal to you, get back to where you belong, get out of the situation. And often the body responds in very weird ways. We know that as soon as you are out of your comfort zone, often the first thing that occurs is memory loss. I will walk into a social setting where I feel maybe intimidated by the people that's around me, or I feel unsure about who these people are, and somebody can introduce themselves to me and say, "Hey, my name is Frank," and I'll go, "Hi, Frank," and I'll look around, I'll come back and I'm like, what is this guy's name again? Like, how did I forget his name? He just told me his name. Out of comfort zone, often memory loss kicks in. But that's not all. Out of comfort zone, our vocal cords tighten up. You will get this macho guy walking in and he wants to look like he's in control, and he will say, "I will get us out of this thing." I'm like, what's wrong with that guy's voice? Well, out of comfort zone, vocal cords tighten up. I mean, you can sing beautifully in the shower on your own, but if I put you on a stage before 1,000 people, it sounds kind of different. All right? But that's not all. Often when we are out of our comfort zones, our muscles in our rib cage tighten up, and it causes a lot of pressure. And so it affects our breathing. And people will say, "Oh, I feel under so much pressure lately." Have you ever heard that before? Yes. What they're actually describing is the out of comfort zone feeling. But that's not all. Often our digestive system produces more digestive juices, and it makes us feel weird in our stomach areas. And people will say, "Oh, I feel like I've got butterflies," or "Oh, this makes me feel sick." That's how they will describe it. And that's not all. Adrenaline is being produced just above your kidneys, and that can make you very shaky. So people can feel very shaky when they're out of their comfort zone. And even that is not all. Moisture appears on your hand palm so quickly when you're out of your comfort zone. That's how a lie detector works, by the way. We put something on your finger and we say, like, what's your mother's name? And you give me an inside of comfort zone answer. So we pick up the moisture on your skin, and then we say, "Did you take the cookies?" And you go, "No." And if that is not true, it's out of comfort zone. Moisture appears on your skin so quickly that it spikes on the machine for us. Your heart rate goes up. You start blushing. You are not at your best when you're out of your comfort zone. Now, why is our body doing this? Why is it giving us this tension feedback? Wow, it's trying to keep you, even if you are detrimental to yourself, all right? So I want you to remember this. It is saying, like, once I know what I think is normal to you, you can, and I pick up that you are in a situation which is not normal to you, I need to get you back to normality. I need to get you out of the situation, back to what's normal, so that you can just be you again. Now, maybe another very helpful way to think about it is to talk about self-regulation, that our brain is wired to self-regulate so that we can always come back to normal. And a very useful or helpful analogy would be that of an air conditioner. If you understand an air conditioner, you understand how your brain works. Now, if we think about an air conditioner and we set the temperature at 20 degrees Celsius, the idea is that should it be warmer than 20 degrees Celsius, a cooling fan will kick in and push it down to 20 degrees Celsius. And if it is colder than 20 degrees Celsius, a heating fan will come on and push the temperature up to 20 degrees Celsius. Do you get that? All right, so now you understand how an air conditioner works. But there's one more thing that I need to add to our analogy, and that is that when they build an air conditioner, they actually build in what they call an effectiveness zone. It is an idle state for the machine, because I mean, if I breathe out in this room, it's more than 20 degrees Celsius, right? And so this machine will just go on, off, on, off, on, off if it really needs to stick to 20 degrees Celsius. And so what they do is they will say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to set the temperature at 20 degrees Celsius, but the machine will stay in a state of idle if it's 20.1, 20.3, we're not going to waste electricity. If it's 20.4, it's still okay, If it's 20.5, maybe it's okay, And the same for going down. 19.8, we're not going to switch on the fan. 19.7, we're not going to switch on the fan. But when we reach 21 degrees Celsius, or when we reach 19 degrees Celsius, then the machine will kick in and push it back to 20 degrees Celsius. Does that make sense to you? All right. Now, the human mind works exactly the same. We can do slightly better or slightly worse than what's normal for us, but as soon as through our senses we pick up a big difference between our normal going up or down, then we find that our brain says, hey, I need to regulate you back to what's normal. I mean, when I was in school, I was a 60% student. I got about 60%, average. And so when I got 62%, that's okay. 65, hey, that's good. How about 58? 58%, not too bad. 55%, I will tell my mom, don't worry, it's still above class average, I'm good. But if I failed a test, when I got 23% for a test, and now the teacher says, you can rewrite the test on Monday and this is a Friday, all that tension feedback kicks in. They say, Kobus, you need to get back to where you belong. And so my hand palms get sweaty and the muscles on my chest kind of tightens up, and I need to explain to my mom what went wrong with that last test of mine. And all that tension says, okay, you need to get back to where you belong. And so that weekend, I will study, I will do revision, I will do everything to get back to what is normal. And then on Monday, I will write my test and I will get 80%. Now, just pause there for a second. I just proved to the world that I can get 80% all the time. I can work that hard. But what do Kobus tell himself now? You know what, if I got 80% for that test and then the next one I kind of get like 50%, then I will still get my 60%. I'm actually okay. Why don't you just get 80% all the time, Kobus? Well, it's because I'm a 60% student. You see, as soon as 60 becomes my normal, then I can do slightly better or slightly worse. But as soon as I do way better or way worse, my brain wants to compensate and get me back to 60. And it will make me either, if I'm below, work much harder to get to 60, or if I'm way above, it will make me slack down to get back to 60. Make sense? It's a scary thought, but that's how the brain works. That's why New Year's resolutions don't work. 1st of January, you all stand and say, oh, this is the year, this is it, This time, I'm going to sign a contract at the gym, because if I pay for it, then I will go, all right? And we set our goal way outside of what's normal to us. And we all want this. This is good stuff. But your brain goes like, hey, there's a problem, because when I look at what's normal and when I look at what you want, there's a big difference between the two. And my job now is to use tension feedback to make you forget, to run out of time, to come up with a gazillion of excuses as to why I can't go, to get you back to what is normal. It doesn't think about if normal is good for you. It just thinks about, I need to always compensate for the differences and get you back to what's normal. Make sense? Now, according to this model, what do you think do we need to change? I mean, if it's not about putting the opportunities out there, then what do we need to do? What do you think? Come on. Oh man, I can't really hear you. But yes, we need to shift the temperature. It's not about creating opportunities outside of our comfort zone. It's all about moving the temperature. In human terms, the temperature is your beliefs. In human terms, temperature is our belief system, and this is the thing that we need to move. And over the years, we have developed ways to help people move this at a high level. You will always self-regulate, but once we've moved the temperature, now you will regulate at a higher level. I hope that makes sense. Now, let's quickly come back to company and come back to our teams. When we think about company culture, that is the temperature on this model. And so often what we find within company culture, if the company culture is set at 20 degrees Celsius, we can do slightly better and slightly worse. So maybe we will send people on training, and they will come back, all motivated. And then we find them a month later, well, they're back to their old self. Or people will do slightly worse and we'll give them some written warnings. Now they will perform. And they might be slightly better, but not great as well. And so what we find within our companies and within our teams is we find often a level of stuckness, and we can put a lot of effort in, we can put a lot of training in and a lot of energy in, and we can send them on team building sessions, and we can hold the financial carrot in front of their nose, and temporarily they will do better, but they will most likely regulate to their old self, the old team performance. So when people ask us to come involved in a company, and they say, oh, you need to shift the performance, can we just put them there? And I'm like, nah, we can't just create something to put them there. What we would need to do is we would need to lift the whole temperature of this company. We would need to shift them to the next level. Now, slightly more complicated than just sharing this in a couple of minutes with you on a video, but I'm going to give you enough to start looking at the right things to shift your company culture to the next level. So maybe the first question that we need to ask ourselves is what is a culture? People say, Kobus, we want a high-performance culture. And I'm like, okay, so tell me, what is a culture? And they go like, it is the shared beliefs of people come up with fancy ideas of a culture. A culture is simply the way you do things around here without thinking about it. It is the way the team operates without consciously thinking about it. Sometimes we can do slightly better when the boss walks in, and sometimes we do slightly worse when our line manager's on holiday. But it is the general way that we operate. It's the general way that we do things around here. So it's not about creating these opportunities. It's all about how do we take the culture and shift the culture of the company to the next level. So that just becomes the new norm. So that just becomes the way people operate and do things and behave without consciously thinking about it. Now, based on a lot of research and a lot of testing, we have developed this model that we use when a company asks us to say, Kobus, can you guys come in and help us build a high-performance culture? Or can you come in and help us to build a resilient culture, or an agile culture, or a culture with great leadership that will serve as mentors? Then we use this model, all right? So I'm going to give it to you now, step by step. All right, here we go. So the first thing that we ask them is, what element do you want to build into your current culture? All right. And then they're like, no, but we don't have a culture. I'm like, yes, you do. It's the way you guys do things without thinking about it. Now, that's a very important point, because we don't often know our own culture, right? It's like a fish swimming in water. You tell the fish, hey, fish, what is the water like? And the fish goes like, what do you mean? Like the what like, Like, you're swimming in water. What is it like? Like, this is just my world. This is just, I was born in this. I don't even know I was swimming, all right? It's only when we take the fish outside of the water, and the fish goes like, I need to go back, that we kind of have a look at our culture. I go to China and I spend a month or two there, and I go like, all right, I'm keen to go back to South Africa now. I miss my people and my bride, and so we are often not aware of our culture when we are in it. So the very first thing that we need to do is identify our current culture, and you can do that through surveys, or you can just do that through consciously thinking about it, and then say, okay, now that I can see maybe a little bit, pull myself out of the water a little bit and look at my culture, what element do I want to build into this culture? What is the one thing that I want to bring into this company, into this culture? I want to build it into our current culture. All right, so that's the first thing. And to be clear about that. It's not like to be healthier. What does healthier mean? It must be very specific. It must be very clear. It must be tangible that this is the thing we want to build in. And it must be measurable. So if this is what we want to build in, where are we now? And how will we know then that we have reached this? So this is the part of the way we do things. So number one is, what do you want to build into the culture? And the second question is, how will you measure that? Two vital questions on this journey. All right, now, once I've established that, then there will be three areas that we look at. And these three areas you will find in all cultures on planet Earth. And it doesn't really matter where we start with what, all right? But the one area is obviously all the individuals in your company. You sit with a lot of individuals. They are there every day. They're doing things the way they are doing things. And the first question that you need to start asking yourself is, knowing what we know, what we want to build in, how will we start challenging the thinking of this group of people? What will we do with them? How will we challenge their thinking? How will we really make sure that this becomes part of their thinking? So we like to talk about creating processes of challenging the individual thinking. And that must become a big focal area in the approach to shift this thinking, all right? So that will be one area. The other area will definitely be your leadership, all right? Now, we like to talk about people with moral authority rather than leadership, but for the sake of this video, let's just talk about leadership. And the big question is, it doesn't help we challenge the individuals if the leaders doesn't start modeling the thing that we want to implement in this company. So maybe we want our individuals to be critical thinkers, to think about what they are doing. All right, so let's say that's the culture we want to build. So now I can challenge my individuals in the company about how they're thinking and how they think, and we can send them on workshops and all sorts of great things. But if the manager, the line manager, still tells them, this is what you're going to do, I don't like your idea, then we will never build that culture. So there's a big moment of bringing leadership to start role modeling the idea or the element of this culture that we want to these individuals, and there should be interaction between those two. The individuals being challenged in their thinking and the leaders role modeling this new kind of thinking. Make sense? Now there's a third part to this. And that would be the practices. It's the policies, it's the systems, it's the processes that we have in place in our company. We also need to look at those. If I say, for example, we are building a culture of trust and we challenge our individuals to think differently about what is trust and how can we build trust, and we get our leadership to role model that, so they give more task, more freedom, they more trust, more trusting in how they manage their people. But our systems, our policies are still very stuck in, the security is tight and you need to check in and check out and you need to be there at 8 and leave at 5. Otherwise, we don't know if you are doing your work. So if the systems doesn't support it as well, then you're sitting with a process that will never work. So number one, identify what element do you want to build into the current culture. Number two, how will you measure it? And as soon as you know that, then the thinking needs to go, how will we challenge our individuals? With this in mind, we need to think about how will we get our leadership to start role modeling this element that we want to build into our culture, and how will we align our practices, our policies, our procedures with this culture of ours. So when we hit all three elements, the individuals, the leadership, and the practices and policies, the way we do things together, and we get the leaders to role model it to the individuals, we get the individuals to interact with the new practices, we get the leaders to set up these practices, and we do the hard work wherever they intersect with each other. Oh man, there is no other option than creating a different company culture. All right. Now people say, Kobus, you make things sound so simple and so easy. I don't know. That's kind of the biggest criticism that always comes my way. But in one sense, it is that simple. I think the complexity comes in to think about exactly how will we challenge, how will we get leadership, and how will we change these practices without causing a lot of disruption within our day-to-day work. This is enough for you to go and think about. This is enough for you to go and explore and even maybe try it out a little bit and see what small shifts you can cause within your teams or within the company or the organization. Man, and if you feel stuck at any point, this is what we do. I love to sit, and I'm a sucker for a coffee, and think through these processes with you. I'm so confident in this model because not only is it backed with so much research that we have done over the years, we have used this in multiple industries. You know, in manufacturing, in agriculture, in retail, in tech companies, you name it. And it works because it's a universal model. It is universally how cultures work. So if we can do this, so can you. So I want to encourage you to go and play with it. Just go and see what you can do. And if you ever feel stuck, if you ever go like, oh man, I just need a little bit of input, that's what we are here for. You've got my number, it's on the screen. You've got my email address, it's on the screen. Just write it down. Say, Kobus, can I have a coffee with you, or a Zoom or a Teams meeting or something? And I'm sure I can help you fine-tune it so that you can take your company to the next level. So that you can be the one creating the new norm that will just make people operate, perform on a higher level without even thinking about it.